Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream. Hey, welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And tonight, you know what? I always start this stuff off and I'm like, what's the date? It's October
13th.
It's October 13th. Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Hey, tonight we have a few things that we're going to talk about. Some of it is going to be a little serious, and that seriousness is going to be about 1 minute because I have to get this stuff off my chest. Okay. There's a lot of shit going on in the world right now.
Yep.
I was just telling Todd this before we hit record. There's the Twitter, right? It used to bother me. Facebook used to bother me. Twitter used to bother me because I felt like, because I didn't do it, because I wasn't involved with it, and I didn't really get too invested with it. I thought it was kind of cool that you could reunite with old high school buddies, but I really felt like Twitter and Facebook was like a Kardashian thing. Hey, look how important I am. I'm going to tell you every little step of my whole life, blah, blah, blah. And it just annoyed, the idea of it annoyed me until this week when I actually opened a Twitter, or actually it's not just this week. We've had a Twitter account for a few weeks. I've actually kind of involved myself a little bit more into our Twitter, following our Twitter account. And I'm amazed at how much more information I'm getting now because of Twitter than I ever was informed before. I mean, there's so much stuff going on in the world right now, and people need to be aware of it. And if you don't have a Twitter account and you're not subscribed to RT, which is Russian television or Russian Times or Russian, you know what? Type in www.rt.com.
Or NPR. NPR's Twitter feed is fantastic as well. I mean, even the New York Times has some good Twitter feed because it has so many people part of their Twitter that allows things to happen or allows them to get the information out there. And don't forget that they say that Egypt was able to have the Green Revolution there because of Twitter. If they didn't have Twitter
or Facebook,
is Twitter, because they were tweeting. It was
social media that they were really.
They were tweeting like crazy. Meet here, do this, do that. Join together, and it said that it helped. I mean, imagine trying to coordinate something without Twitter saying, "Hey, we're going to be here doing this. Everybody come here and do this." It's almost like able to broadcast it over hundreds of miles, to get everybody to meet instead of like calling people on the phone or, flag signals.
You know what's funny?
Something.
You know what's funny? You say that and it instantly reminded me of somebody talking about the British Empire back in the day. And that there's no telephone, there's nothing but parchment and ships and people on horses and carts. And they had the largest fucking empire, and they were able to control it using ships and parchment and people on horses and carts. And it's amazing that a group, a country could rule over such a large portion of the world with just that type of savage communication.
And I think the opposite. I think it's easier because then you don't have the ability for people to communicate. If you are controlling your empire, even in a rudimentary fashion with parchment and ships, like you said, but you have populace that you control over and you are in the populace, your fingers are everywhere, you're listening to spies, you hear about this, you hear about that, and you can squash it because you are so enormous. There is no way for anybody else to coordinate against you. That if you are the leader or the empire that's ruling everything and you control all aspects of all these different societies, they don't have an opportunity to get the word out there. As soon as you see a little fire starting, boom, you fucking crush it. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? That's what I like about this podcast, because I come into it with a view, and my view is correct. But you add flavor to that meat and potatoes that I brought to the conversation. The communication.
So I had no substance. Mine's just a flavoring sprinkled on top of your meat and potatoes.
I brought the substance. I brought the subject. I brought the subject. you just flavored it up and made it sound good.
No, mine was the opposite of what you said.
It is?
Yeah, because you said that they did this incredible thing and they didn't have any way of, and they had no way of controlling
they
it.
had a very savage way of communication, very low level way of communication, not like what we have today. And the work that went into it. I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is the work that went into it is astounding. Because I'm so used to people just tweet and everyone knows about it.
Right.
So, hey, just really quickly, this is something I kind of want to add to our podcast is a little bit of time at the beginning of our podcast to talk about things that are going on in the world right now. And I'll put links to this in our discussion if you would like. But RT is talking about over the last couple of days, Monsanto has been really under attack big time. And it's not just locally.
To me, it's less locally United States than it is in the rest of the world's fucking going bonkers.
Some of it is happening locally. There is some action locally, but there's 52 countries. Now try to wrap your brain around this. Okay. This isn't the Million Man March. And you know what? I need to come back to this Million Man March. I made a comment about that Million Man March thing on the last podcast. And I kind of want to revisit that a little bit on a future podcast, but not right now. So I apologize to the people that I bothered. I really upset with the Million Man March comment about them not doing anything, and I don't remember it, but we're going to address that in a future podcast. Anyway, 52 countries.
Do you know any in particular? Like,
I'm going off of headlines from RT. Okay. This is where I'm getting my info from RT. And what you've talked about before, Todd, is RT will come out with a story, right? And then maybe the next day or 2 days later, NPR will hit the story. And sometimes never the major media outlets, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox.
Right.
Which you know what? That would actually be a good thing. Should we look on Fox and see if they have any coverage on this revolution, which is being called, it's named the Popcorn Revolution. And it's 52 countries, over 500 cities are protesting Monsanto because all these countries, they had this thing where they didn't want any GMO foods. They didn't want any genetically modified seed from Monsanto. I mean, it was a big, big deal for them.
Yeah. And
so for them to all of a sudden find genetically modified seed or crops in their part of the world, they're freaking out, you know? And it's absolutely amazing. And if you don't know about this stuff, you need to go to RT and do some research on it because it's a serious fucking story.
And the scary thing to me is that the government's so much a part of this Monsanto thing. You know, they are so well funded by the government and they pay so many things for lobbyists to be in our government. And what they do is it's almost like biological warfare in my mind. Okay. So it's
actually crimes against humanity.
Right. And so if we can't, you and I can't, we can own a lab and we can design, you know, killer viruses, right? That they could use in biological warfare, but we don't use them in biological warfare. We just make the shit and then it gives us an excuse to put money into a research and development facility or whatever it is. But they keep it all in a can and it can't get out, right? It's like Stephen King's The Stand. Worst case scenario, a bug gets out, wipes everybody out. And, you know, that's the gist of the book. I think Monsanto is in the same kind of vein because they are making something that is out in nature, and all the ways that the way that nature functions is winds blow, animals, you know, eat seeds and distribute them throughout the area that they live. I mean, all the natural parts of the way nature works, they're fucking with. And so the idea that people think that, oh, what a travesty, which it is, that these seeds are found everywhere, their genetically altered stuff is happening, they're finding it. What did we ever think was to me, it's almost like it was going to happen because that's what they're doing. They're fucking with the things that already naturally happen in the world. And so that think that the disbursement of these seeds was somehow never going to get into something somewhere is crazy. It was always going to happen. It was always going. How can you keep, say you're testing a crop and it's been a genetically altered corn or soybean or something, right? How can you contain that? You can't contain that. You know, the wind that encircles the earth and you know, keeps us all on the same page that we breathe, at some point is going to go over that crop and carry something from those crops somewhere else. I just think it's kind of like fucking bonkers to think that somehow this was never going to happen. So in other words, what I'm trying to get to in my little tirade.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Is that
it's okay to be passionate.
It should have never been an okay thing ever. If they were going to do stuff, I mean, even say are they going to put in the money so that if they're going to do this genetically altered corn, they're going to discover it and figure things out, and it's in a sterile environment and everything's fucking filtered through HEPA filters and all this crazy shit so that nothing ever gets out into the air? Because if it's part of the way the earth functions and how we live on it, it's going to get out there.
Contagious.
Yeah. It's just the way it is. So I think it's almost like a God kind of level. You know, you're fucking with the genetically altered, you're genetically changing things, and to think that somehow won't get into our planet somehow and fuck with all of us is crazy. And that's where some people who have a problem with genetically altered foods or GMO foods is that, yes, our body just breaks them down and uses them, carbohydrates and proteins and all that kind of stuff. But at the cellular level, is there something else going on that we just don't know? So I don't know that
we don't know yet, right?
And I don't know I don't know the fear that's that's kind of written into that, but it does. I mean, it is scary.
Well, fuck yeah, it's scary.
You know,
for people at home to be listening to what we're talking about right now, and you're thinking, well, maybe Todd is freaking the fuck out. He's making a big deal about nothing, and Matt's just trying to pet him and calm him down. But listen to me. This is a possible explanation. Okay, try to scale this into your brain.
I'm going to interrupt you. There's absolutely nothing on Fox News on their world website of things that are happening in the world.
About the Monsanto?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're moving on. Okay, so as an example to why this is serious, okay, as an example, back in the day, we cross-pollinated things, wheat, different strands of wheat. All right, to make a hardier, taller, more robust. It made the wheat bigger so that when we cultivated it, we had more produce.
Well, we do that with all kinds of plants and flowers and things.
But specifically, we fucked with the wheat plant a lot. And we didn't even do it genetically. We didn't do it. We weren't messing with pesticides and things like that. We basically just cross-pollinated things. We did it as close to what nature might do herself, right? But in doing so, 40, 50 years ago?
Yeah.
We are now seeing the ramifications of those actions. And those actions are people that are allergic to gluten. And you have, and there's a huge thing right now. Every time you hear somebody going, is that gluten-free? That's because their body cannot handle how we have fucked with that type of wheat. And you can still get original non-fucked with wheat, but it's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And it's getting rarer and more rare every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
It's like $10 a pound.
Okay. So think about that. There's real legitimate side effects or real legitimate reactions to wheat.
There's a great book called Wheat Belly that's out there that not only talks about wheat and how much it affects us because it's in so much. They talk about like high fructose corn syrup is in everything. Wheat seems to have, there's parts of it in everything.
Right.
There's a great job in that book of going back and looking at wheat and how it's been changed. And the hard part is that we've messed with wheat, like, you know, interbred species of wheat and things like that. But he even says in his book that it's not just that. It's that we've genetically changed them. Mixing two pieces of wheat and mixing two breeds of wheat together to make something else is one thing. It happens in nature all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
And so that's one of those people who say at Monsanto say that all the time, or people who are for Monsanto say all the time, well, you know, this has always happened, you know, but it hasn't. We've always mixed species and made new things, right? That's a whole different story than going in and genetically changing the cellular structure of a plant and adding Roundup pesticide to it, or making corn so that
poison.
Corn is no longer the corn it was back in the day. Corn used to be a really healthy product. It is no longer a healthy product to eat. Well, that's why people say if you're going to eat, if you're going to work on your diet, so to speak, don't eat corn. There's so much starch in it that it's not good for you, and it's actually too much carbohydrates. They've genetically altered corn so that it has a lot more starch, so that when we do use it for high fructose corn syrup, we get more from it. There's a great movie called The Kings of Corn, I think is what it is, and it's two journalists.
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary. Two journalists that found themselves working together and found out they were both from small towns in Iowa. Right? Like, holy shit, are you serious? And they thought, let's do something crazy. They moved back to a small town in Iowa. They bought a 1 acre of corn. They went through the same process all farmers do. They went in, got the seed on, charged it,
Sure.
And then the government gave them a certain amount. And then they grew their corn and they harvest their corn. And then they tried to make high fructose corn syrup themselves. And it involved at one scene, they have big rubber gloves on because it takes what is that horrible acid that we always learn about in chemistry class? It's so bad. I don't know. I'm blanking.
It's not lactic acid.
No, it's like the acid that you use to dissolve shit,
dissolve metal.
And so it's something that they had. That's part of the process of making high fructose corn syrup. And I'm again don't know enough about it, but the documentary is amazing because they talk about how they have cows at the FDA that are standing there chewing corn, right?
Okay.
Their bodies can't digest parts of it. This is disgusting. There's a hole in the side of this cow that is surgically made. It's got a bracket around it so it doesn't heal again. The guy can reach in.
That's fucked up.
It is.
Dude.
This cow's just sitting there chewing cud. He can reach in and grab a wad of this fucking shit out of its stomach because its stomach cannot process some parts of it, but it makes it super fat, it grows super fast. And then of course the corn industry is
that's what we're using.
So, they get subsidies and they do all this stuff. And I want to be the first person to say that small farmers to me are the salt of the earth and the bread and butter of this country. Yeah,
but we don't have a whole lot of small farmers anymore. It's a lot corporate farming.
Right. But I would say that of the Midwest areas, Iowa has the most small independent farms. And I think that a lot of them are thoughtful stewards of the planet, so to speak.
Dude, you hope.
I do.
You hope.
I know enough people who are involved in...
You know some people, but you hope that a lot of them are stewards of the earth.
Yeah.
But it's somebody's point of view. You could think that you're a steward of the earth, that you're taking care of the environment. But there's economic pressures. There's societal pressures. There's things that you do because it's a societal norm, and it doesn't mean that you are a steward of the earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody might think they're doing the right thing, and that's from their point of view. But when you look at what they're doing, you're like, that's really not kosher. That's really not that cool. I understand that you feel that that's cool.
That's the way you've always done things.
That's the way we've always done things, or that's the way Joe Blow farmer down the road does it, and you're best friends with him, and he's always done it that way. But just because you're a salt of the earth farmer doesn't mean you're necessarily a steward of the earth. I'm just throwing that out there because sometimes Todd and I agree a lot, and sometimes I have to put on that devil's advocate hat and. Not because I want to be a dickhead, Todd, and be like, "No, man, you don't know nothing." It's because I want to show a different side of a coin. Okay, because there's people out there that are going to listen to this and go like, "Dude, you're painting two rows. You have a fucking picture."
Sure, and you know what? I'm much more optimistic than you are in my approach to the world. That's just kind of our personality. So I think I think that's okay. And I'm going to say it right now, just to let you know, MSNBC.
Oh, I'm preempting. I'm saying that because I don't want you to get pissed off.
No,
dude, why are you?
I'm not. I know you're in a bad mood, so it's okay. MSNBC and CNN, both nothing. Now this Monsanto, the popcorn revolution, has been going on solid for 2 days now. 2 days. Again, 52 countries, over 500 cities. And there's stuff locally in the United States that's happening in protest of Monsanto.
and zero coverage. Zero. Again, what's today's date?
October 13th.
October 13th, 2013. This has been going on for 2 days, and it is a hugely important issue. It is the people of the earth. Now, Todd and I have talked before about politics, obviously, and the banker bailout, and this fucking slogan that came out, hey, they're too big to fail. And I will say this again, if it hasn't been recorded earlier and put on podcasts, the people of the earth are too big to fail. We are too big to fail. The middle class is too big to fail. The lower class is too big to fail. The people of Africa are too big to fail. People everywhere on every continent are too big to fucking fail. We all are important. We all are important. So when we're manipulated and we're forced to do something that we don't want to do, that we choose not to do, that if it was left up to us, we'd be like, fuck, dude, why that doesn't impact me at all. I don't want to partake in that. It is a crime against humanity. Do not marginalize this issue. Do not shrink it down and think that it's just some fucking crazy guy in Iowa fucking freaking out on a podcast. This is a huge issue. It is going to affect our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren because we have genetically changed food. Plants. We've changed plants and we've put poison in the plant. That's what a pesticide is. It's a poison. And yes, it's supposed to keep bugs away, but it also makes you fucking sick. Because nobody out there, you go out and buy a bottle of Roundup, and I guarantee you on that bottle of Roundup, it is not going to say healthy for human consumption. It's not going to tell you to drink a bottle of fucking Roundup. It's probably going to say poison. Do not ingest. And if you do ingest, call the poison hotline. It's probably going to say that. So why would you ever think that it's cool or okay or profitable or not a crime against humanity to put poison in fucking seeds and then have those seeds grow into food that have poison genetically in them, and then we have no choice but to eat that fucking food?
Right.
How is that not a crime against humanity? So, all right.
Wow,
I'm going to try to calm down. Is that okay? Was that all right for me to do that?
You really dropped off the edge there. I thought you were just going to keep on going, but that's okay. Dude, it's good to be passionate about these things because if that's what it ends up being. And I guess that was you put my point in a much more concise way. I'm just kind of like, it was always going to be something like this if somebody was going to fuck with the genetic structure or the cellular structure of the things that we eat every day. It was always going to go bad. I don't see how it can't go bad. That's kind of my thought about it.
If you're messing with food.
I was just going to say, I don't think, to me, interbreeding a wheat or to making, interbreeding apple species, like that would happen all by itself if given the opportunity.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Exactly. And so it's just that we ever thought that was okay, even from the beginning. What's that Jurassic Park? Oh, sorry to go way back there, but there's a scene in Jurassic Park where he goes,
because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do something.
He said, you never stopped to think that not can I do it, but should I do this?
And that was Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, it was Jeff Goldblum. I just don't, and I hate people to think of, well, hey, that's capitalism. That's the free market. It fucked us over. I don't think it's that. I think that people can have a moral aptitude and still be an active member of the free market and capitalism. Because I can say,
if there is truly a free market, you know what, guys, everybody at home, I don't want to have this podcast because we've had a lot of serious. We've only put out 8 total, really, podcasts. But Todd and I have been talking and recording for a while now, that things that we have not put out on the internet. But I don't want everything to be so serious. We're going down that road. All right, we're gonna branch off quickly. Pretty soon, we're gonna get off this subject. Rest assured, and we're going to talk about guy shit.
Well, what I do like, there are parts of people resisting this idea of all this altered things, chemically altered things, or, people are making such cheap, horrible shit now. It's cheaper in China. There's a quality level to things that has really, really dropped. And the idea that made in America was always the way, hey, it was made in America. It's well built. It's taken care of. That's why Walmart had that return anything policy, right? For so many years, because it was made in America and they knew like, oh, this didn't work. We'll ship it to the guys and let them know this part's breaking or this is going wrong and they'll fucking fix it. And so that's why Walmart had that return anything, that policy, which was astounding back in the day.
I need you to look that up and send that to me in an email.
Sure.
Because I'll put that link on there. For people, we're so jaded nowadays and we have such short memory that unless we see it on the internet, which is so fucked. Oh my God. I remember looking at porn and waiting for it to, for the image to slowly bar by bar materialize on my screen because the internet was so new. And you're like, oh God, I just want to see some nudity. But to now our society is so involved with the internet, it's hard for us to do anything. Or we use it as such a crutch. We're like, okay, well, I'm going to say this. And if I can find it on the internet, it's true. And people really believe that I'm not going to believe something unless you show me a link to a page that proves to me without a shadow of a doubt that yes, in fact, this is true. This is what actually happened. And thank God for that link to that webpage, or else I never would have known if that was true or not. It just amazes me because it wasn't very long ago. I'm not that old. The beginning of the internet, well, I shouldn't say the beginning of the internet, but when I started using the internet back in like 97, 96, 97, when you would get those AOL discs in the mail, Netscape Navigator and things like that. Yeah, the dial-up modem.
I think I said in the past podcast too that there's some comedian out there who's like, you know how old I am? When I used to masturbate, I used to have to use my imagination. Like people are like, even I, who of course started masturbating a long time ago, and had to use my imagination too.
It's hard to
stop and go,
oh shit, that's right.
That's right. I had to lay there and imagine what could possibly happen. Or the last time I saw a pair of boobs, what did those look like? Oh yeah. It took me a long time because I hadn't seen them. Now you can type in boobs into the internet and you can get 1,000 images just like that.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You look at European countries and there's kids that can drink. There's no legal drinking age.
And nudity. Like shampoo ads in Europe,
and it's not
show
a big
naked
deal.
people in the shower.
But they don't what's the word I'm looking for? They don't make it to be a big deal. So then people don't treat it as a big deal.
Right.
And then you don't have people abusing it because, hey, guess what? It's not a fucking big deal.
Exactly. We're such a religious hounded country. That'll never happen. People bring up stuff all the time and they get just fucking ostracized for it. Just the simplest comment, oh, we should do this. And then all of a sudden it's like, what? You're not, Jesus would not do that. I just don't like the idea that, I don't want to say closed-minded, but we are so constricted. We are just so worried and so scared all the time of every little thing. It's like, oh my God. So my son
It's like an overprotective dad.
Yeah. And you know what it is? To me, this is just me spouting off my issue with it. It's religion. It's religious people who are just so fucking worried that their God and their religion, to me, is so uninfluential that they have got to have these restrictions on some of the things around us in our society. So, we're going to regulate television, we're going to regulate music, TV, movies. Everything's going to be regulated under the scope of religious godlike things. So you can't say certain things, you can't see certain things. And nowadays it's getting a little bit more liberal, obviously, but that's the only way they can control it.
And people would argue against that also. People would also say, you know what? I don't want a naked ass on TV. Thank God there's regulation for that. Whether it's Christian based or not. Thank God people aren't saying fuck and shit and goddamn on a television show or whatever. Whatever the key words are, I don't know.
But it's what you just said. Seeing an ass, having your kids see an ass on TV, if we make it a big deal, it becomes a big deal. If it was all just, hey, this is just the way it is kind of thing, oh, so now you saw an ass on TV. You see my ass when I get out of the shower sometimes, or I see your ass when I see you run across the hall to your bedroom from the bathroom because you just got dried off and your PJs on. I mean, it really is nothing. Now, if it's an ass pumping into somebody and somebody's having sex, that's a whole nother story. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe.
But we just make the littlest things seems like such a big deal that it's like, we would just be a little bit more relaxed about stuff. It would go so much further, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. Okay, I got two things that I want to talk about. I want to bring up just to be on the record, I guess. One is that there's huge demonstrations also in Japan about shutting down nuclear facilities, period.
Just get rid of them.
Please don't pollute our seas, is the demonstrations that's going on there. So if I can...
Why would you build a nuclear power plant next to the ocean? I don't get it. I mean...
It needs to be next to a water source, period. And if you're living on an island...
The ocean's nice.
I suppose that there's not a lot of lakes if you're on an island.
But to me, the risk is so high. I mean, that's everybody. It's not just, I mean, so we've taken on the idea here that, okay, we're willing to accept the risks of one of our nuclear power plants going south on us, right? And it would ruin an area. It would kill a lot of people in a certain area. If you build your nuclear power plant next to the ocean and you use that water to cool things down.
It's only supposed to be used in an emergency to cool down the reactor in case your fail-safes fail.
Wouldn't you say it's just too risky? Let's do it somewhere else. Or
how could you choose to do that when you're living on an island?
So you scoot it in way far away from the ocean, you pump it in. I don't know. Or my whole point is that if it's that much work to make it happen, and there's that much risk involved of fucking everything up, you know, polluting the oceans and radiating fish and then radiating us at some point, then maybe it's not a good idea to do in the first place. It's the exact same thing as Monsanto fucking with seeds. If this thing has the capacity to really, really fucking ruin an area or a city or a state or whatever it is, or a country or the oceans, God, you know what? Maybe we should not do that and find another fucking way to produce our energy. I just don't understand the thought process behind that. At some point, what, you know, if I were to drive my car at a high rate of speed on a regular basis, I am choosing to take a chance, but I'm also doing it understanding that I have the choice of the matter, and that I may not want to do that because of the consequences.
Right.
You know, so I try. Well, I'll just say that I try to drive at a reasonable amount of speed, knowing that it's just not worth the consequences of it. I'm just not going to speed. I'm going to get me home that much faster. It's okay. There's other ways of me to get home that don't require so much. You know, to me, it's the same thing. So I can own all the seeds because I genetically alter them. I put a label on them. They're all mine. They're all my companies, but they, you know, are really fucking horrible. Or I'm building nuclear power plants, and so I can do whatever I want because I make these machines and I have all these safety regulations, and it'll never happen, and everything is fine. I mean, have you seen that picture of the melted containment center of Fukushima? Fukushima?
Yeah. Yes, I have. I'm not laughing because it's laughable. I'm laughing because
I mispronounced it.
No. I'm laughing only because it is so horrendous. It's like you don't know how to react. It's like you can't possibly humanly react to something that has so much power.
Mm-hmm.
It's so devastating that it just fucking melts all the metal and all the shit around it. And it's continually, it's still burning.
It's still doing it.
It's still melting shit.
It goes back to my point. Don't even fucking do it. Who do we think we are to somehow contain the heat of the sun to produce energy? Right? I mean, isn't that the idea of a fusion reactor or a fission reactor is that it's producing so much heat and it's boiling water and it's making steam? I mean, it sounds like we live in the 1800s when I think of it that way. I know it's much more technically advanced than that, but
you know what, Joe,
that picture of Fukushima.
I hate to bring up the man who
shall not be mentioned,
Joe Rogan, on his podcast. He makes a comment, and he just fucking surprises me all the time. It really strikes me as so profound when he makes statements like this. We are like a kid in a candy store. Now, he didn't say this. I'm paraphrasing what he said, okay?
Good.
We're like a kid in a candy store. We have found something that intrigues us. We have found something that has sparked our imagination, and we're like, ooh, nuclear fusion. we haven't lived on this earth long enough with enough technical equipment to record things like, hey, should I put this nuclear power plant right next to the ocean? No, don't do that, because we've been recording what the ocean can and might do for the last 1,000 years. And just to let you know, if you put a nuclear power plant right next to the ocean, probability says that it will fuck up every so many years because we've been recording it for 1,000 years. Well, we don't have that. Sure. We are a kid. We are a 6-year-old carrying around an M60 machine gun, and we're like, oh, well, I don't know how dangerous this is because this technology is so new to me,
right?
And I don't really truly understand my surroundings because I'm not old enough. There's not written history. There's not scientific equipment technical enough to inform me that maybe I shouldn't put a nuclear power plant next to an ocean, because I haven't even conceived of the thought that a tsunami might come, knock out all of my fail safes. And then what would I do if my fail safes are knocked out? I'm fucked.
Right.
And if I get to the point to where I'm fucked, the radiation that is leaked into the ocean will stay around longer than human beings have been around.
Right.
It will fuck up our genetic code. We will be like that movie. What was that fucking movie where it was an American movie made, and people are driving an RV and they get to this town where they have a flat, and all of these people who lived in the town that we used back in the 40s to do nuclear bomb testing.
Oh, I don't think I ever saw it.
Oh, fuck, it's fucked up.
Oh, was it a horror movie?
It was a B horror
that's
movie.
why I never saw it.
My wife would know.
You and your wife would know.
God,
exactly
she would know it.
Well, hey, I was going to tell you
now.
that my wife and I was telling her about Neil deGrasse Tyson the other day and how he was
Neil
saying.
deGrasse?
What did I say?
Neil deGrasse.
Whoa.
That's okay. You can fuck up whenever you
terrible.
want.
I really like him too, so I feel bad about messing up his name. Anyways, I was telling her how he said that infinity is so expansive and so unmanageable, inconceivable that what is happening right now on this planet, there's a very good chance with the under the idea of infinity that this has all happened already. That there have been human beings who have gone through similar things, that there is absolutely, without doubt, another planet like this with people going through similar stuff. And then, I don't think it was him, but I think it's maybe movies that I've seen that say things like, maybe there are people, in other planets, but guess what? They're watching us and they're going, oh, they're just not ready yet. They're still fucking killing each other over religious things. They're still building things like nuclear power plants. They're just fucking crazy. They're ruining their planet for a quick piece of cash. That they're just not evolved enough for us to contact them or help them find answers to their problems. And so when I hear about the idea of infinity and the idea of other worlds, I have always believed in other beings in the galaxies.
There's got to be.
It's mathematically,
improbable.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely there. But when I hear us talk about things like a company making something that is horrible, or a company is getting together and saying we're going to own all this and genetically alter that, or we have we're going to do this because we have the capability of doing it, like you said, a child with a technology they don't understand. It makes me go like, yeah, we really have a long way to go. You know what I mean? I mean, if you think about us, especially Americans and the world right now, we really are in the infancy of the technological kind of advancements that are going to be capable soon. I know they keep talking about how it gets faster and faster technology wise. As soon as something comes out,
computers double every 18 months,
something like that. Yeah, and so the computer you have now will be obsolete in a year and a half or 2 years. It's just like those kind of insane things,
right? You know what? People say that, and I just got a 2007 iMac.
But it functions for what you need it to. When it comes to
what I need,
right? I mean, it's a whole different story.
I could probably run the U.S. government with the brand new iMac. Right, who knows?
Exactly. But I just think that because the Industrial Revolution was not long ago, because America in its is really in its infancy as a country. Because I was telling somebody at work the other day, I have a friend who goes to Europe and speaks on a regular basis, and I was talking about something about seeing a building that said 1884 above it, and I was like, oh wow, that was built a long time ago. He's like, imagine being in Europe and you see a building like that or a church like that, and it says like 1011 over the door. And the piece of stone that's like the step to walk in is worn down. The stone is worn down because hundreds of millions of people over 1,000 years have walked through that threshold. And so when I think about how old humanity is, and then I think about us right now and how
we're just a blip on the radar, not even a blip.
We really are a blip, and that to me it's the arrogance. I mean, it's like it really is that ego. It's the self that I'm always talking. You know, we talk about like trying to remove ourselves from. So we talk about smoking pot or trying to find something that we can step back and go, wait a second, maybe there's something much bigger than just right now. That I'm just like, maybe we're just not there yet.
And you know what? I'm all about scientific advancement. I'm all about testing the boundaries of what we know. I'm all for that. The line that needs to be drawn in the sand that we continually overstep these bounds is greed. When greed gets involved with this stuff and we push products out the door faster than they should have been put out to the public, and it's not a controlled environment, and we don't know truly what the ramifications of those experiments, what is it going to entail? How is it going to affect us? How is it going to affect our children? When our children have children, and how is that going to affect them? That's where I say we need to somehow draw a line. We need to have a better way of determining whether these experiments or these breakthroughs in science are good for us. We don't even know if they're good for us. You know, we're doing things and we're like, woohoo, holy shit, I can do this. Yeah, but is it good for us? It's cool. Great. I'm glad that we mathematically, scientifically engineered a way to do something. But is it good for us? Just because we have done something, should we do it? I mean, it sounds stupid, but if it doesn't,
Jurassic Park.
But if it doesn't benefit us, and you know what? I'll give you all the props. I'll give you all the awards, all the accolades that you want. But if it doesn't benefit us, if it doesn't benefit my children, if it doesn't make my world better, then don't fucking do it. But hey, you know what? You're smart. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I love your ingenuity. And you created something completely new and unique. And you actually showed us that you could do something that nobody else has thought of. But it needs to stop. Your personal thing, what you've done, is not good for us. But great job getting to this point. Right. So what we're saying, what I'm saying, what I believe, I don't know if Todd necessarily feels this way, but what I believe is we continually have to push that envelope. We continually have to search out new and have new experiments and new ideas, because we're not going to get better technology wise if we don't. We're not going to know what we're capable of if we don't. But we need to be better at how we unleash these experiments and how we let them into our world. I mean, it has to be a much more controlled way of doing things. And it's gonna kind of sound a little fucked up, but I'm all for the idea, because of course I'm not in it. But I'm all for the idea because I think this is really truly the only way that you could understand the impacts of something, right? And that is to have clones
of people.
Whether you have clones of people or clones of animals.
You just went way. You like jumped off the edge.
No. Listen, to me, because I'm not educated enough. Maybe there's people with a science background that say, "Yep, dude, you have something there."
I'm sure there is,
because society will say, "No fucking way are we ever cloning people." But if you had clones of let's go with the safe let's go with a safe subject. Let's say we clone animals. Okay. We have one animal that we've cloned multiple times. Okay. And we put them in a controlled environment. And in this controlled environment, environment A, we feed them a normal American diet. Okay.
Okay.
And in control group B, we feed them nothing but a vegetarian diet. We would only be able to know for a fact scientifically because they have the exact same genetic code, each and every animal there.
Sure.
That for a fact, French fries do this to you.
Right.
And it is better for the human species that a vegetarian diet is better for you.
Right.
And the only way we could know that, because you're different than me.
Right. Well, that's
You have
a good
total
example. If you
different
and I ate
genetic
fast food
markers.
every day, I would balloon and you wouldn't. It's just
Correct.
that's just the way it goes.
Right.
And I hate that fact about you. But go ahead.
I'm cursed with good genetics.
You are cursed with good genetics.
But that's the only way that you could truly have, beyond a shadow of a doubt, a total answer that you could say, hey, listen, this is the findings that we had. It's not a placebo effect. We took things. And to take it one step further, if you were to take people, a woman, a man, and you put them in an environment, and it could be all different types of experiments. What would happen if you took a group of people, and it could be 20 people, 50 people, whatever, and you put them in a closed environment and you said, these people get to live like we all live right now. Internet, television, constantly. We have iPads. We constantly are entertained, blah, 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 with all this stuff. And then you put the exact same people, because they're genetically cloned, into exhibit B, a closed environment, and you say, okay, this is old school. You're not going to have technology. You're going to have parents actually interacting with children, or you're going to have the dad going to work and the mom staying home with the kids. You can't know for certain until we have environments like that. Otherwise, we're just guessing. We're just going, I'm pretty sure that this is the way it's going to work out.
And shouldn't that be? That's the part where morality kind of kicks in. I think we kind.
Well, morality is. Well, it's a crazy idea. Morality is different to everybody.
Right. But I mean, the idea of if we go to a more moral way of doing something, we're not focused on things. And so we don't need so much money. So we don't need a second income, and somebody can stay at home. And the idea.
Right. But I'm talking sci-fi. I'm talking experiments in sci-fi.
I know.
We'll get back to other things here.
I was talking I was going to say, my dad always talked about like animal experimentation, whether it was drugs or, things that are on the market, like, Crest. There's a great study, being sarcastic, out there called the LD50 test, where they take a dog, usually German Shepherds and stuff like that, and just fill their stomachs completely full of whatever product. So like toothpaste or mouthwash or shaving cream or whatever it is.
Would that be fucking good for anybody?
And just see how long it takes them to die, to see the toxicity level of what it is. Not that, and you and I would never.
Damn, that's fucked up.
No, neither you and I would never, nobody we know would consume anything like that. But part of it is that we've gotten away from.
I know some kids that will put just about anything in their mouth.
I have one of those in my family, and I know that he would not.
And that's why you need to have parent interaction and constant vigilance with children.
So the part of it is like we've advanced things medically because we do animal experimentation first. And I'm not there are my mom always said to me, she's like, you had eye problems when you were a child, you had glaucoma. So does that mean that you wouldn't have wanted them to do all those tests on rabbits for all those years, so that they knew how to do the surgery to do your eye and make you be able to see and stay and have vision? Which is a horrible thing to say from a mother. But anyways, it makes me stop and go, okay, yeah. Or would you not want somebody to say, okay, so we found this cancer research because we took all these monkeys who are 99.9 just like us, and we fucking, cut them apart, or we give them AIDS, or we give them shit to see how long they fucking miserably die. That moral aspect. And so when you said the idea of going back to the roots, or we keep advancing, with technology,
right,
it goes back to the idea. I think they correlate in the sense of, if we stood back and said, okay, we can only move forward at a certain pace because we're not willing to kill other things just to see if we can somehow make ourselves live longer.
Right.
that might slow down the progression of some of these things that we're like, wow, that we're really going fast we really are a child with a machine gun, and we just don't know what we're doing yet.
True.
It might slow it down.
And I think that is a very peaceful and very loving. I'm not belittling what you're saying.
I know.
Okay.
You think it's unrealistic though?
Do I think it's unrealistic, or do I think it's not good? It remains to be seen. I mean, me personally, I'm learning a lot, and I'm becoming, I feel, I'm trying to be more aware of myself. And I put that all towards the Joe Rogan podcast, because he's so thoughtful. Okay.
And it
really surprises me.
I'm going to reiterate, because
he's really surprised.
We would not. We're going to stop. We always try to stop talking about him. I still think he's a meathead. Okay, but he is a fucking thoughtful, thought-provoking, good dude. And if you ever hear him talk about even like fighting stuff, when some dumbass says, "I think I want to be a fighter," he stops and goes, "You don't want to do that. You realize you could die if you do that. Don't do it." You know what I mean?
He doesn't say don't be a fighter. He just says,
no, some jackass.
Don't just jump into a ring with a really good fighter just because you want to have the experience of getting your ass kicked. Because getting your ass kicked has real ramifications. But anyway, I'm really trying to be a more thoughtful, caring human being.
Listen, I'm going to preempt you. I'm saying that I think you are a thoughtful, caring human being. You like to see things from the other point of view, and you like being the devil's advocate, and you like kind of challenging the norm. Again, you and I agree on a lot of things. We have definitely things we disagree on, but if we have a consistent thought about something and it doesn't change very much, I think once in a while you go, well, wait a second. What about, I'm just going to go over from this angle and see what happens. And I think that's a good thing.
I'm about ready to do that.
Sweet.
Ready?
God, just
here we go.
Tear my balls off.
There you go. I think that we need to stop being such pussies in regards to owning something. Okay. What you were talking about earlier, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Okay?
What do you mean by
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
I'm going to get there. I'm not saying what I'm about to say. Don't get me wrong. Don't misconstrue what I'm trying to convey, and hopefully I can do it concisely. When you made the example of, we experiment on monkeys and we did experiments on dogs and we learned things from those experiments. That was the most mild form of experimentation. What the Nazis did,
or Tuskegee.
I'm just saying what the Nazis did as an example is some of the most horrendous shit that could ever happen to a human being. Right, what they did to the Jews and all the scientific experiments.
Right.
And let me do this and see how long they can last before they die. Let me cause so much pain and see what their pain threshold is. They did things to the human body that we still, to this day, I don't think we would ever truly know. There's so much scientific and medical advancement that we owe to that barbaric, horrendous, horrible time in our history,
right,
that we do not give credit to that, right? Because we think it's so terrible that we don't even want to recognize it. We don't want to open our eyes to the fact that we learned something. We are better today because of what they did back then. And I'm not saying that I wanted anyone hurt. I'm not saying that I think Jews should be hurt. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not saying that. Okay. But we do have to have our eyes open. We have to acknowledge the fact that we learned so much more than we ever did in human history about the human body when they did experiments on human beings.
Right. And I think it's okay to recognize that there was advancement because of that.
Not a lot of people want to accept that. You know, people want to say God gave us this information in our head so that we could set limbs and we could do open heart surgery and stuff. So that's why we do it. You know, when people want to argue the whole thing about, hey, if God has a plan, so why are we fucking with that plan? We should not step in. Well, God gave us that information to do that. Well, so did the Nazis. I mean, the Nazis gave us this information through really brutal ways. And it was the quickest way because they were doing experiments on human beings. They weren't doing it on chimps that are really close, but not quite us.
Right.
Until we find a very extremely humane way of doing things. Oh, this is going to sound so terrible. Like what the Nazis did, but with clones.
So you're saying, see that, what the hard part is, like, so, and all of a sudden you hit this thing of like, so does a clone have a soul? Does it have a purpose? And so then it's like, there's
sci-fi movies that go into this idea, and they've been touched on, and I wish I could name them off the top of the head. I can only see them in my brain right now. That there have been sci-fi movies that talk about people growing up in this building, and the idea is that everything else around them has been irradiated through nuclear bombs, and the idea is like there's a lottery, and they might go to the island. Is that what the movie was called? The Island? Was that what that was called?
Yeah.
It might be The Island.
Ewan McGregor.
And
it wasn't a horror movie though, was it?
No. What kind of? He was a clone
for body parts. That's right. For body parts. He
was a clone for body parts.
It is The Island, you're right.
But The Island. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the idea obviously is what I'm talking about. There's clones out there, and they weren't doing experiments on them, but they were growing clones for body parts for other people that were free outside of this complex. But the idea is sound. Okay? The idea is sound. I'm not saying morally it's sound. I'm saying the idea is sound.
Well, that's what they're so big now on trying to find a way to make just organs instead of making a person who contains those organs, because there's a moral aspect to it that is like we're not willing to cross that threshold.
Okay. And maybe we can go the organ route because we don't want to fuck with the soul.
Right, exactly.
Maybe we can go the organ route. Maybe technology someday they'll be able to say, okay, guys, we made a human. We made half of a human. We made the nervous system. We have recreated through 3D printers.
Yeah. You're
right.
You're right.
It's not far away.
Happening. Yeah.
The nervous system of a human being. Okay. And because we've created this, now we can do tests on it, and we can say that when you introduce this chemical into the nervous system, it elicits this type of response. Okay. At that point, it's dry. It's a clear-cut, dry response. This is the answer. Definitive. Right. You don't have to worry about, well, this person who did this study, we don't know if it was a placebo effect or if they were faking it or if it had any preconceived conditions of this person. Were they a smoker? Did they eat nothing but fast food? You don't need to worry about any of that. Someday we'll have that.
Right.
Someday.
I do think that, though, I think that goes back to what I said earlier about, do we need to advance as fast as we can advance on a moral level? And I wonder if that would keep, listen, and this sounds just as horrible. Does that mean that more people die because we don't have the answer to a lot of things that we might have before because we experimented on animals? Yeah. But maybe we wouldn't have the population explosion we have.
Oh,
you know
God.
what I'm saying? So,
if you weren't going to say it, I was going to say it.
No,
population.
I know. I'm just saying that I wonder if we slowly, with a moral mindset of how we go about doing things, they always say that the study of life is biology. Biology is a study of living things. Then why do we kill things to study them? It sounds like a contradiction in thinking. And so I wonder if we approach things from a moral point of view and only advancing as far as we can advance because we're just not willing to kill things to find out how life works. I wonder if things would have happened slower, but they might have happened better, and that we might eventually as people be more advanced, I don't know, emotionally,
spiritually,
maybe, yeah, because we're approaching things from a certain point of view. I mean, I am thoroughly guaranteed. Like, we look back on Nazism and think of how fucking horrible and barbaric it is. I know for a fact we're going to have generations, if we survive so long, in a 200 or 300 years, look back and go, fuck, they used to fucking burn. They used to burn shit to heat houses, to boil water, to generate electricity.
They burned fossil fuels? What?
Yeah.
What?
Or they dug up a chemical dug up a substance from the ground that would fucking ruin everything for hundreds of thousands of years, and they used that to cause this, chemical reaction to boil water to fucking generate. I have a feeling they're gonna look back and go, these fuckers were crazy.
Right. I don't think it's too far-fetched. This is definitely a sci-fi idea. Okay. The idea is this. I see someday scientists coming up with an idea or an experiment or an invention, chemical, that they can introduce into our skin that creates photosynthesis. We're basically walking plants.
Huh.
To feed us.
We'd all be green, wouldn't we?
Well, the green of a plant is only to make it more absorbent, to help with the absorption of
energy from the
sun's rays.
Gotcha.
It's more photovoltaic, I guess.
It's a big word.
That's a big word when you've been drinking some beer. I'll tell you what.
After a long day at work. Yep.
So let's just throw out some. What do you think would happen? I mean, can you imagine a world where you don't actually eat food anymore? I mean, you'll have to drink water. Plants drink water, but you don't need food necessarily because the energy that you're getting is being photosynthesized through your skin, changed into glucose, changed into energy for your cells, and all you need is water to survive. How would that change the world? I mean, the implications of, even if it's a second skin of some kind,
right,
to help introduce a chemical into your body that would nourish your cells of your body, where you actually don't need to take in food. There's crazy.
Well, then you have those people that are going to say, but we have teeth to eat food.
We got teeth for a reason, motherfucker. But you know what? Maybe we don't have to go to war with people. Maybe we don't have to have starvation. Maybe we don't have to have malnutrition.
Sure.
People, you want to eat? Fine. Go to McDonald's and eat. But you're also getting everything you need from the sun. Right.
Or the idea, maybe I can see sooner than a photosynthesis person, I could see something like, the Matrix, they had that slop that they ate. And it had
slop. Yeah. That's called Blendtec smoothie.
Okay. Well, that could be it. Yeah, it's like oatmeal. But it had everything in it for you to survive. And so you eat that 3 times a day, you're solid. You know what I mean? I wonder, we would probably get to something like that, don't we?
But we do have that now. If you use a high efficiency, really powerful fucking blender, like the Blendtec that I use.
You're gonna hope they give you one for free.
That would be so great if Blendtec contacted me and was like, "Hey man,
let's see how many times we're gonna say Blendtec in 5 minutes." Blendtec.
I love Blendtec.
Blendtec's the greatest.
Blendtec. Blend this motherfucker. Anyway. If you are an aficionado of movies and you love that movie, The Matrix, that's what, and they're eating that slop and they're saying, "Hey man, it gives you all the essential amino acids."
And it looks pretty gross too.
It's gross. It looks gross. It doesn't taste very good, and that's why that guy, the bald dude, goes back into the thing and he's like, "Hey, I know that my brain is telling me that this steak is juicy and wonderful."
We only know the words because we saw the movie 7 times in the movie theater together. Sad enough. Go ahead.
But there's already something where you can drink slop, basically, and it gives you everything your body needs. And that's when you make a smoothie with deep, dark greens,
right,
and fruit and bananas or an avocado, and you mix all that stuff together in a wonderful cocktail.
And it actually tastes good.
And you blend the shit out of it. Yeah, it gives you everything that you need. It actually does give you everything. So we're already there.
Right.
But we fight it. But we're already there. Because you know what?
That's a good point.
I love a steak as much as any other motherfucker out there. I love my meat. I love it.
Okay, don't say that.
No, I do. I love meat.
I know. Sound like
I'm
your
a
wife.
big mouthful of meat.
Sound like your wife.
You're such a sexist pig. Hey, real quick. Are you on the RT's website?
No.
Pull up RT.
I'm on one of the man websites.
Pull up RT real quick.
All right, pulling up RT.
Okay. If you click on US, the USA portion of the RT website, you'll see in there this, and I'm just going to bring this up because I want to be on record as saying They might be onto something. Okay. Okay. So if this doesn't ever hit MSNBC, CBS, Fox News, if it never comes out in the major media outlets, these 24-hour news outlets, if it doesn't come out in this, at least maybe if you've heard it here, you might be a little bit more educated.
And
you
CBS and ABC are
Right.
also not running anything on Monsanto, just so you know. I found those two more. So that's pretty much every single major media outlet is not covering it.
But here's something that RT did put out, and it's the title of this thing is called Internal Pilot Union Memo Claims Terrorism Dry Runs Happening on U.S. Flights. So there's the pilots union. There's a memo out there, and it claims that terrorism dry runs are happening on U.S. flights right now. That pilots are getting fucking freaked out because strange shit is happening on their flights. And they're saying, hey, I think this is fucking terrorist dry runs to see how we react to shit. You read that article on RT and you pray to God. Now, this is the first thing. This is the one and only thing that I've heard since 9/11 happened that makes me go, okay, wake up, smell the coffee, pay attention to what is happening. In one of the stories, the first story that they have in here on that article, they say there's a group of Middle Eastern men, 6 or 7, maybe 8, I forget exact details. I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up right now. I'll tell you guys exactly what they report. Okay. The memo released sometime just before September 11th, 2013 from the U.S. Airline Pilots Association states, there have been several cases recently throughout the airline industry of what appears to be probes or dry runs to test our procedures and reactions to an in-flight threat.
So the thing about, you know what's surprising is that if that's true, they're thinking that it worked so well the first time they're going to do it again, even with all of our security.
Yeah, but there's been shit that's happened in our airports that show the lack, even though we have security, that there's huge holes in it.
Right.
So here's one example of what this pilots union has said. Okay, here's one story. A group of Middle Eastern males boarded in DCA shortly after takeoff. One got up and ran from his seat in coach towards the flight deck door. He made a hard left and entered the forward lavatory, where he stayed for a considerable length of time. While he was in there, the others in his group got up and proceeded to move about the cabin, changing seats, opening overhead bins, and generally making a scene. They appeared to be trying to occupy and distract the flight attendants.
Huh.
That's only one of the stories. And there's many stories. And the TSA responded to the original story with a statement saying, it takes all reports of suspicious activity on board aircraft seriously and that the matter required no further investigation at this time. Let me tell you something. If you try to smuggle on a bottle of shampoo, bam, your shit gets locked down and they take it super seriously. And they strip search elderly women and they fucking feel up infants, for God's sakes. I mean, Alex Jones was freaking out about the manhandling children, okay? Which, hey, he has a right to do that. He has a point. Jesse Ventura, he got manhandled.
Right.
And he was a governor, you know? So it's not like the TSA, it's not like they have a record of never going overboard. And here is a situation where it would clearly give them some cause of suspicion.
Right.
And yet they're going, nah, we're good. Doesn't that seem odd?
Yeah.
Doesn't that seem a little weird? And that's one example. And if the pilots union, if pilots and the people that are that interact basically with the passengers, if these people are saying, hey, fuckos, hello, wake up, I need to let everyone know this. If they're saying there's an issue, we need to wake up and pay more attention to what they're saying.
Right.
So anybody who's listening to this podcast, I hope that I am wrong. I hope that nothing happens in the near future. But if it does, you heard it here second. Maybe you heard it on RT first.
Right.
Scary fucking times, man. Scary fucking times. And you know what? I'm going to do what normal Americans do. I'm going to be confronted with the truth. I'm going to be confronted with uncomfortable scariness. And now I'm going to focus on consumerism. I don't want to deal with scary. I don't want to deal with terror. I don't want to deal with reality. I don't want to deal with government and shit going on with government shutdowns. And there's another fucking story. This was all right. This is the last fucking thing.
Yeah, whatever.
No, honestly, this is the last thing I'm going to bring up. Veterans storm World War II DC Memorial amid government shutdown. Did you hear?
I heard about that. That happened the first week. The first day of the government shutdown, they closed down all the war memorials, and those flights are still happening for World War II vets. And some guy went over and just pushed the barrier out of the way and wheeled somebody in.
Okay, let me ask you this.
And there's some congressman.
I am amazed that I even have to ask this question. We should not live in a world where I have to ask this question. So why were the police notified with riot gear?
Yeah,
It's a fucking memorial. It's a slab of granite. Shit is not going to get destroyed. And even if it is vandalized, do you really truly think that World War II vets
who can't walk, they're all on wheelchairs,
are going to fucking destroy a monument?
Yeah.
How fucked up are we acting?
Yeah, that's crazy. And then there was some, and he was a Republican congressman who was there, just chastised some poor lady who was working for the state parks, whatever. You know, she's just a state parks person. She was saying, I was made to do this. And he just fucking railed on her. And he just helped shut down the government so it couldn't function. So he helped shut down the government and then was fucking screaming at her because she was like, I was told to put this barrier up and say that there's nobody here to help anybody to go see this memorial or keep an eye on it.
His response should have been, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. You are following orders.
Exactly.
But again, this is what we should humanly do. It's crimes against humanity. Do not think that I'm overstating this. When bullshit happens like this, it is crimes against humanity. I'm sure, maybe, have I said this before on the podcast? How as a child, as a young adult, I was just flabbergasted at apartheid.
Yeah, you did. The last episode, actually.
I just could not wrap my brain around how a huge mass of human beings would allow themselves to be treated like shit by such a small group of people.
Right.
We are doing that. We are part of that fucking group right now. We are. So if you're listening to this podcast, I don't know what we should do. I don't know. I don't know what would be beneficial to the cause of humanity. But if you are being told to respond to a memorial and put on your fucking riot gear because there's some old geezer in a wheelchair, please, 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 God, please think to yourself, this is fucking stupid. And I should not be doing this. I know some cops. I know some police officers, some law enforcement people. They're really good people. I'm sure that almost all of these, I'm sure there's some bad eggs, but I'm sure there's almost all of these people are great people. They're only doing their job. They take pride in their job, and they take pride in the fact that when somebody tells them, their boss tells them to do something, they react and they respond and they do what they're told. That's admirable. That's great. But when you're faced with the facts that you're going to a memorial site that is stone, it can be rebuilt, even if they were attacking the motherfucker, which they weren't.
Right.
You don't need to put on fucking riot gear. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. It's a waste of money. And it is intimidating. It makes people look at you as if they live in a police state.
Well, it just looks like that. I mean, you can't help but look at that scene of a memorial with a bunch of guys in police garb with a bunch of old men in wheelchairs and not think to yourself, wait a second, you know, something seems a little off here. I'm not sure quite what's happening, but I do think we need to turn towards consumerism, not because I just want to talk about consumerism in general, but I do like the fact that there's a lot of stuff out there right now. And it seems to be kind of like manly kind of guy things that are kind of being made, but there's a lot of websites out there now that are offering things that are handmade, usually in the United States, that have to do with more of like, I shouldn't say manly things, that have to do with like hiking and being out in the outdoors and things like that. There's a great website called Best Made Company. So go to bestmadecompany.com. We'll make sure we put it up on the website. But they make like if you're a hiker, camper kind of person, which I am sort of. I don't do as much as I like to, but they have handmade axes that are absolutely phenomenal. Now they're expensive. Okay, I'm not going to bullshit you about that. But they're made in America. They're handmade. They're made from, I think it's from, I'm not sure what wood it is, but they have them. They're kind of made after like the old Paul Bunyan kind of like solid piece of metal, solid wood kind of thing. And they are just absolutely amazing. I mean, they are about $100 to $300 a piece, but we're talking about a piece of solid forged steel that doesn't need to be sharpened. Handmade axes that are just absolutely gorgeous. And that's just one product. Now, a lot of this stuff is also, it seems a tad elitist because a lot of it is extremely expensive. But one of these axes that look just fucking fantastic is like $160. I would totally buy one. But they
crazy.
But they also have like these backpacks the backpacks are like $300, right? But they're industrial canvas and they're all brass riveted, all leather housing for things. Everything's buckled, brassed, holes hand punched, that kind of thing. So it's one of those things. It goes back to this thing will last forever. Yes, it's $300. It's very expensive. I totally agree. But this thing is unbelievable looking, and they're Best Made Company. But if you think about like my best example would be Oakley. They make some sick backpacks and stuff like that, right? But they're made out of rubber. They're made out of steel fiber cable and steel fiber buckles. I mean, they look like they could go through the apocalypse and be just fine on the other side, right?
Or you could lose them or step on them and they're fucked, and you just lost $150.
No, these are not built like that. These are way beyond the $6,700 backpack. These are like fucking industrial backpacks.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about backpacks. I thought you were talking about Oakley sunglasses.
No. I'm sorry. I'm talking about backpacks.
I had to step out of the room and use the little boy's room.
But so these canvas backpacks that are on bestmadecompany.com, they're really expensive, but they're all canvas and they look like they're just going to last forever. And so it's like, do I spend $300 on that because it's handmade in the United States, or do I spend $150 on an Oakley backpack that seriously has like steel cable reinforcing the edges of where you buckle shit, so it's never gonna fucking break? You know, it's kind of like, you know, but I mean, I like this because I know this is made in America and they're trying to kind of restart kind of like the old fashioned way of making things and offering things that you just know were built a certain way, so they're just gonna last forever, like your grandfather's backpack from fucking Boy Scouts. It's still there and it still works.
You know what? And it doesn't have to be made in I feel bad because I always just fucking. I want to give the I want to give the other side.
I don't think
right? I want to give the other side. So the people at home, I want to give the other side of an issue. Don't think for a second that only products made in America have that type of craftsmanship that makes them allows them to withstand the test of time.
Right.
Okay. My first wife was really into her. I was like, I was young. I was stupid. I was like, hey, why don't you dress sexier? why don't you buy clothes from this place or buy clothes from that place? Something that was trendy. You know, I was young, I was stupid, early 20s. And her motto was, I want to, this is how I think of clothing. If it's quality, if it's timeless, and it's fucking comfortable. So you know what that meant? A lot of fucking khakis. That's what it meant in my house at that time. But I'm all for anything that is quality built. And just because it says made in America, sadly enough, that doesn't mean
you're right
that it's quality built.
You're absolutely right. You should always find out what's going on for that
the fucking
company.
The reviews of things. That pushes me in a certain way of that pushes me in a certain avenue of wanting to purchase something. You know what else pushes me into wanting to purchase something? Comedy. Comedy. I'm not shitting you.
What do you mean?
Somebody sent me a link and it was a YouTube video and it was for the Dollar Shave Club. And I thought it was a parody. I thought it was like a
joke.
Yeah, I totally thought it was a joke. And this guy starts out and he looks like a goober, right? And let me see. It was that comedy, it was that silliness that made me go, I'm going to continue watching this because it's fucking totally entertaining me. It's not boobs and ass.
But I'm saying, but isn't that just a good sales job?
It is a great sales job. And then you take a second and you're like, okay, it's funny. I'm going to take the time to listen to it. And at the end of it, I'm like, oh, fuck, I could save some money on something that I have to use. I have to shave for my job. I have to shave. I can't be part of Duck Dynasty. I have to shave.
Right.
And if I can save money doing it, fuck yeah, great job for him. He made it really entertaining. He sold me on it through comedy.
Sure.
And so that's one of my things.
And the more things that I find that are unique,
$1shaveclub.com.
You went for your answers.
Dollar Shave Club.
Anyways,
I wish I got $1 for every time I said it. $1shaveclub.com.
I like the Best Made Company because they have a lot of unique products that I think are really look like they could be very, very functional. So they have knives. I mean, these axes, they have like cases for these axes. So it's like you use this axe, you're going to want to fucking clean it off and make sure it doesn't have any shit all over it. And then you put it back in its case because it's fucking fancy as all get out. But they have just beautiful knives, incredible clothing. Nice.
Dude, you're talking about fucking axes and knives. I turned my for everyone listening, I just turned my laptop around. Yeah.
With a fucking bow and arrow rack on the back of it.
You know what it's called?
No,
it's from my second favorite website when it comes to consumerism.
Okay.
I'm all about capitalism and consumerism.
I can't even give a good proper promo of Best Made Company.
Why?
You keep showing me that stupid shit.
I apologize.
I'm kidding. I'm done.
But it's from Uncrate.
Oh yeah.
UNCRATE.com.
Oh no, I had that. It was one of the ones I want to bring up today.
And this is called
Uncrate's awesome.
This is called the hunting bike, right? It's camouflage, and I saw this fucking product. I saw a picture of it, and I thought, yes, this is something that I can get behind. And this is probably something that a lot of hunters could get behind. A lot of outdoor enthusiasts could get behind because it is a bike and it is a system that is put together to be able to put shit on it to go out and not use a four-wheeler, ATV, your truck, and you could just pedal shit out there. And it can actually haul your hunting gear. It's made to haul hunting gear. It has specific gadgets to hold.
How about when you bag a deer? How are you gonna fucking get that thing back? You can't take it back on your goddamn bike.
That's a good point. Maybe it has a fucking trailer.
It was a 12-point. Really? Where is it? I was on my fucking hunting bike. I just couldn't bring it back.
I was 37 miles. I mean, I lost track of how many miles I was going because it was so easy.
I hit a sweet wheelie on the way back. In the
wilderness.
My wheelies are awesome.
Nothing could stop me.
On Uncrate, they had have you seen those?
Uncrate.
Yeah.
Uncrate.com.
Fitbit. Have you seen those?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
They have one now that's got an LED screen, so it's more like a watch.
Yep.
But you sleep in it. It tells you how good your quality of sleep is. It also will tell you how many steps you've walked, everything. It's not coming up if you're trying to show me something. It's not coming up. Sorry,
what the fuck?
Anyways, so it's the new.
Jesus.
It's the sorry. It's the new one. It's the newest Fitbit watch, and that to me, wearing something on my fucking wrist that calculated every little bitty thing.
This is actual artwork that you can purchase to put up on your wall.
I love it.
It's the Walter White
collection,
Breaking Bad collection.
I love
it's fucking cool, dude.
It's awesome.
It's really neat. I saw this and I thought, you know what? I might get that for the podcast room.
I have been finding things on the wall.
It's $50.
I've been finding things to dress this place up. I'm totally down with you. I'm like,
you know what?
That'd be a great clock for
I'm
our room.
I'm gonna put a link to this exact website so that you can see the Walter White pictures. It's fucking great. It's great. I love that. God, I love that. I was so sad when it ended.
But it ended so good.
But it ended in a really good way. There's been a lot of series. There's been a lot of shows that I've been really invested in. I got just hooked on, and the ending blew goats. I mean, it actually sucked off a billy goat. It was terrible. It was exactly what you just vocalized is how my soul felt when I watched the season finale.
Nice.
Like Lost.
Oh yeah, that was just weird.
It just sucked.
Yeah. So hey, I'm going to interrupt you and let you know that
interrupt me
on Uncrate, they have a machine where you can make your own Matchbox car. They give you a big solid piece of plastic. You drop it in there.
It's not that impressive.
Push out the form. Did you not play with Matchbox cars?
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the bug shit that when I was a kid, there was a thing that you could make. You took jelly and you could make monsters or bugs.
Yeah.
So what? You make Matchbox cars.
When you were a kid, you didn't like that?
I enjoyed making.
Okay, put yourself back as a child again, okay? And this is making Matchbox cars. I loved Matchbox cars. And so the idea of making my own.
I'm trying to think if my kids would even think about the shit that I made 5 seconds after I made it, and I'm thinking no.
Yeah, my kids still play with Matchbox cars, so I know they would like that, but they're not going to pay $300.
Your kids also have wrecked how many sets of headphones with their iPads?
I know. And then this morning, I'm like, hey, remember why I'm upset? The headphone thing? He's like, yeah. I'm like, your headphones are on the middle of your bedroom floor right now. Go pick them up and put them somewhere. Oh, okay. Like, I'm
go
not
put your
fucking headphones on, dude.
You know what's going to be? It sounds crazy. What I'm about to say sounds as crazy to you as what it would sound to a grandfather, right? On something, what we're talking about. Pick up your headphones. But this is what it sounds. All right, Junior, now pick up your flux capacitor. We got to put the DeLorean away. Got kids nowadays with time travel. They don't put anything away. It's crazy. It's crazy. A $400 piece of machinery. It's fucking science. It's a computer laying around. You got headphones. How much was the headphones? I mean,
they weren't that expensive, but it was still the technology is.
It is truly astounding what we have become accustomed to and what we give our children. And I'm not trying to villainize you for what you do with your kids. It's fine. A lot of people do it with their kids. But it amazes me if you were to tell a grandparent or if you were to show a person that lived during the Great Depression the shit that we give our kids, they would look at us and go,
the fuck
that's why your kids are fucked up. That's why your kids are fucked up. You know, there was an interview on NPR. Every time somebody talks about the Great Depression, anytime I bring up the Great Depression, this one interview always jumps into the frontal part of my brain, and I really want to talk about it because it astounds me. Okay. NPR had an interview with a woman who was in her early 20s or late teens during the Great Depression, and she was a school teacher. They asked her, I don't know if she was turning 100 or whatever the fuck it was, why it was special, why she was on. I don't remember exactly why it was special that she was on. She was really old. Okay.
Got it.
But the point was, they asked her, out of all it's amazing. Your life is amazing because the United States, the world has changed so much. There has been such amazing advancement in the world. You lived during the Great Depression where there was next to nothing. And you've seen so much. It must have been amazing, your life. She said, yeah, it was amazing. My life was pretty astounding. Saw a lot of amazing things. She said, well, let me ask you, if you could go back to any point in your life, because you've seen this huge array of human development, of social development, of technology. What point in history would you want to go back to? And she said the Great Depression. She would willingly choose to go back to a period of time that we assume, I have been led to believe my whole life was the worst time in human history during the United States of America. And she goes, and it took the reporter off guard also. She said, I can't believe you said the Great Depression. Why would you want to go back to the Great Depression? She said, because we had nothing. And so what we had meant so much to us. And because we weren't entertained by all these other things that we have nowadays, our children weren't running off with their computers and doing all these other little mindless things. We all had to actually be close to one another. We entertained ourselves. We We were we were the closest. I was the closest I've ever been to somebody during that time, and it was the most precious, most wonderful time of my life. And when you hear that from somebody who has lived their lives, there's a reason why the Native Americans had elders. And there's a reason why you should listen to your elders. There's a reason why there's that saying.
Right.
Somebody has lived their life and they're looking back on all of these experiences and they're saying, this is what was the most important. I've seen the internet come around. I've seen the 70s. I've seen the 50s. I've seen all of this advancement. And what meant the most to me as a human being
is other human beings.
Was other human beings.
Sure.
And totally remove.
Right.
Everything else.
But you and I, and I'm sure everybody listening to this, know the truth of that. You know what I mean? We know it.
We know the truth of it.
We're willing to say, yeah, but is it that big of a deal? You know, I do this, or, oh, you know what? I've worked hard all day long. I want to go do this. And my kids, you know, they can go play a video. I mean, you are choosing to do something else than be connected with your family. Do you know what I mean? Because I have friends that are like, so do you talk to your mom, in California? I said, yeah, I do, probably once or twice a month. And they're like, how about your brothers and sisters? I'm like, yeah, I said, I talk to my brothers and sisters probably, I text them or we kind of chat via, smartphone at least once a week, at the very least once a week. They're like, really? You talk to your brother and sister that much? I'm like, they're my family. I'm close to them. And I don't think it's enough. And they're caught off guard that I interact with them on a once a week basis as adults. I'm
surprised by that. I don't even do that with my sister. And she lives right down the street, really, from me.
I did live in a teepee at one point for a couple, I think it was 3 or 4 years because my dad's a unique fella. I did have time where I didn't have all that technology, but at the same time, technology wasn't really advanced as it is now anyways. There was TV. We didn't have TV growing up, but I think more our lives probably are, what we went through together as kids kept us closer. But it's hard for me to imagine not being able to interact or talk to my family. Junior, as you well know, is in boot camp right now, right?
He's killing you.
And I can't fucking talk to him. And it's like, it is absolutely fucking killing me. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's just like on a daily, I've written him 3 letters.
I think I received 3 letters while I was in
because I just want to just inform him what's going on in the world. I am excited for him to get done. I'm excited to see him graduate. I'm excited for him to catch up on the podcast because he can't listen to him.
That's the great thing of this podcast. He's going to be able to
is him calling me and me going, "Hey buddy, what's going on?" And just sorry, can't talk. Do you have a piece of paper and a pencil? Yeah, take down this address.
Here's the information.
All right,
gotta go.
I love you. I'm safe. I'm okay. Talk to you later. Click.
Just the facts, ma'am. I'm Sergeant Friday. See you later.
I can't stand it. I'm telling you, it's been the worst part. Somebody at work the other day goes, they really should call it boot camp for parents too. Because this is like a drastic, terrible separation. It's going to happen anyways. If they go off to college, you'll still see them, still talk to them. They'll come home once in a while. You'll do their laundry, blah, blah, blah.
This is really harsh.
This is like fucking cut you off.
Ripping the Band-Aid off.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's really horrible.
You know what? There's another product.
I hate being a bitch about it, but it really is. It really is tough.
Hey, you know what? My father said that my mom cried every day when I was in the service. And that's
really?
That's not just boot camp. That's not just boot camp.
You're just not around.
I wasn't around. You have special relationships with your family and you give them more than what you think you do. For 20-year-olds, or I don't know. I don't really even truly know who all is listening to this podcast. But there's a lot. Hey, we got over 300 downloads. To me, it's a lot. That's a lot more than I ever expected.
Oh, he thought it would be just our friends listening.
Oh, Jesus. Truly, it's less than 2 months. It's only been like 6 weeks since we've been doing this. But so I don't really know the demographic who's truly listening to this. But if you are a younger person, late teens, mid-20s, if you don't yet understand how important or how much you affect your parents' lives. I mean, I didn't realize it when I was this age. It really didn't dawn on me until I had my own kids. And that's natural. I'm not saying you're stupid for not knowing this stuff. But the relationship I had with my mom, I didn't know meant as much to her as what it did. We talked all the time. She didn't have she didn't really didn't have girlfriends. I was that guy who I think she felt safe around, who she could talk about silly things with, and she could truly be herself and have fun and was entertained by me.
Sure.
She found me to be extremely entertaining. So for me to go away like that, she had no one else that she got that type of enjoyment from. So when I hear my dad tell me she cried every day that I was gone, believe it.
Yeah.
Believe that she cried every day. And I was gone, but two, I was changing.
Right.
You're not the same person.
Yeah,
she would never have the same relationship she had with me before I left when I come back. I think of the importance of a rite of passage when I think of this. I think of it is truly a death. You have to deal with it like it's a death in the family.
It's a transition. It's another major.
It's not just a transition. I mean,
I guess maybe I'm making it too general, but I mean, anything is a transition.
Right. When and being a father now, it hits me. I think about this now because my kids all are so young that they love to cuddle with dad. They love to wrestle around with dad. They sleep in our bed sometimes. They
don't say sometimes.
No. They have to rotate. But there's a kid in my bed.
There's always a kid in his bed.
There's always a kid in our bed.
And yes, please comment about that shit. Go ahead. You were saying.
Anyway, but I love my kids, but at some point it's going to be extremely inappropriate to say, honey, come here and snuggle with dad. And when kids, and they all will, it's just the way it happens. They're going to grow up and they're going to change and hormones are going to kick in and they're just going to be different. And at that point, that child that you knew from the age of 0, from the time that you held them for the first time, from that moment to this time, they're no more.
Right.
That person is gone. That person has died and has gone away. Well, and you will never have that type of relationship with that person.
I mean, to me, I guess that's why I think of a transition, because somebody really has transformed into something else. That child is still there, and because you had that connection with them as a child, that's what it makes is embodies what involves what makes up the dynamics of your relationship. And so I think it's better to think of somebody continuously changing, continuously transitioning, because they're never solely gone. I mean, I do think of Junior a certain way, and I cannot wait until I can have, even if it's just like I can text him, you know. I've been in that mindset again of being like, I'm never not fucking talking to that kid again. I'm gonna text him every day, I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna call him and say, hey, have a good day, love you.
Now that
every fucking day.
Now that he's gone, you know this.
Now that he's gone, I am gonna let him know every single day that how important he is to me. And I don't think it's because I didn't let him know that when he was here, but it's one of those things that I've realized how much my kids mean to me. It's made the relationship I have with my kids that are younger right now more important to me, because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to do the same goddamn thing with them as well. They're going to transition into adulthood. I'm going to have to let go of some of those pieces as they become, you know, functional parts of society. And I'm just going to make sure that they know that connection doesn't stay broken. You know, I think that one of the reasons why it's so hard between me and Junior is because he knows how much I care about him. He knows we have a good relationship together. And so now that relationship has to be disconnected for a while. And I think it's tough on both of us. I don't know if I told you this, but I've talked to him 3 different times since he went to boot camp, right? Mm-hmm. One when he landed and said, I'm here safe and sound. One when he said, here is my address, you can write me letters. Right. And one when he had some medical stuff he was working on that just happened recently that he called and let me know about this medical stuff. Every single time, he said, whatever the last thing he said to me every time, and I'm not sure if I don't think somebody is making him do this, was, okay, I'll see you later. I love you very much. I'll talk to you soon. It's like, and he's always said, hey, I love you, that kind of stuff. But it's nonchalantly. But this time it's like, I need you to know, Dad, that I love you very much and I'm off to do something else. You know what I mean? And I'm sure part of it's stress and homesickness and stuff like that. But again, it connects back with going, you know what? If I didn't have the relationship I had with him, I'm not sure that would be happening.
It would
you
be
know what
happening.
I mean?
Well, who knows? I'm sure there's a lot of service men and women out there that they didn't react that way specifically with their parents when they left. But when you are removed, and you can't understand this until you have been in the position to where you are removed from everything that you know and love, you just can't grasp it because you haven't experienced it.
Right.
But once you are removed from everyone you know and love, you really, really start to understand how much people mean to you. You know, you're isolated, you're with strangers, you don't know what's coming next. I mean, you might have a general idea what basic training is. You might have a general idea what your permanent duty station is going to be like. Maybe. And that still blows it out of the water when you actually live it. Nothing ever plays out like you think it's going to play out. You feel like every day you're walking on eggshells.
Right.
And so when you connect with something familiar, when you connect with that loved one, when you connect with mom or dad, it's like, just so you fucking know, I really, really fucking love you. Great. I love you too, and have a great day.
Well, and I have had so many people say, dude, it's the Air Force. Come on. And I'm like, you're right. It's not as harsh as other parts of the service, but you still have that break. You still have that disconnect where somebody is going, somebody is no longer there anymore. You know what I mean? And you, like you said, you're isolated. And I watched some YouTube videos and stuff like that of the first day of boot camp from the Air Force.
Yeah.
And it did look pretty non-harsh, so to speak. It wasn't like the Army and all that kind of stuff, but I still was like, oh, it's gotta be scary. It's so fucking new. And you're so unprepared. It's just like, I don't know, the unknown. We always fear the unknown. And so it's just like, it's just so fucking scary.
If you could actually, if you could verbalize, if you could put into words the feeling of being in that position, I think the unsettlement comes from this root feeling of I'm locked in. There are no outs for me anymore. Growing up, I could always say, sorry, Dad. Sorry, Mom. Forgot. My bad. Now you're at a point. There are no outs.
Right.
There are no fucking outs. You're locked in. When that realization hits you, it is so profound.
Well, you know what? I think that's my hope is that's what I think he needs. I think he needs.
We all need that.
We all
need that. It's just harsh.
And I think that's why there's part of me that wishes I could if I had to go back in time and do something different, part of me wishes that I could have gone through something like the Air Force to give me that sense of discipline and that sense of unity and to working together for something that I think that the military does bring. I feel like I could have used that I fumbled along with a lot of my life because I had nobody ever talked to me about that. Nobody had ever filled me in on what it was to be committed to people or be thoughtful about other people's ideas about things. It was always like, oh, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. He can just fuck around and do whatever he wants because he's a good person. It only gets you so far in life. Next thing you know, you're 30, you're 40, and you're like, oh, fuck, I better get my shit together. So I think that's one thing that I think if you don't have somebody instilling it in you, right? And I think I tried with Junior, but like you said, it's kind of like, oh, okay, sorry guys, my bad. I didn't mean to do that. And then it keeps happening. So part of me is just like, this is going to be that thing that says
there is no outs.
Right.
There are no outs. And obviously there is an out. It's called dishonorable discharge.
Right.
There is an out, but what you have to go through to get to that point, not only are you going to get smoked, well, this was in the Army, and this was a few years ago.
From what I've been told, the Air Force is you don't just quit and they send you home.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a guy, and I'm sure this is extremely tame to some people. There's going to be people that are older than myself who are going to hear this story and they're going to be like, dude, that's nothing. I'm sure. But this is a story that actually happened while I was in basic training. Okay. A young man freaked out so bad, right? He lost his presence of mind so much that he thought the only way that I can get kicked out, because it has to happen right now. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go to an extreme. He got up on the sinks in the bathroom and started screaming for the drill sergeant. So the drill sergeant runs back there and he's just jerking that fucking monkey as hard as he can
Lord.
at the drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Dude, you fucking lost it. You've lost it. If you are somebody who thought, I have no other recourse, there's nothing else I can do. I'm going to have to get up on the sink and I'm going to have to masturbate in front of a grown man. That's my only course of that's my only action that I can take. I can't just walk up to somebody and go, sir, I realize you're a drill sergeant, but this isn't meant for me.
This isn't my cup of tea.
If you could just show me to the exit, I would really appreciate it. Where do I sign to get out? No, that idea, that feeling is not in your head. You feel like that is not even an option. And so for that person, the idea that somebody is screaming, freaking out and they think in their brain, this is the best way to get out of the military. I'm going to get up on the sink and I'm going to act like a fucking primate and I'm going to jerk my meat into the face of a grown male adult.
What happened?
He's out. He's done.
Oh.
He was walked out right then and there. There's a thing called failure to adapt.
Oh.
Okay. Huh. There's a thing called failure to adapt. And you have to fuck up so tremendously bad. I mean, you truly have to wig out. It's not just, hey, you had a bad day.
Sobbing in a corner.
It's not just sobbing in a corner. You have to completely lose your shit.
Right.
And routinely. It's not just one time. I mean, you had to routinely, but that guy's situation was a little extreme.
Reminds me of Klinger on MASH.
Yeah, a lot like Klinger on MASH.
Yeah,
and if people are too young, if you don't know
go back
the show that is MASH, if you don't know MASH, the television show, fuck you.
My wife makes fun of me when I'm like, oh, hey, MASH is on TV network.
I don't want you listening to this podcast if you don't even know what MASH is. That means that I'm too old and you can't fucking relate.
No, he doesn't mean that. You just go watch MASH and you can still
How about you? Yeah.
Podcast.
Watch it and appreciate it, you fucks. Because MASH was really good. It was really, really good. Hey, we're going to wind this thing up. If you take anything from this podcast, and I hope you do, first and foremost, be aware of the world. Okay? Be conscious of that there's things that might be going on that you're not getting told about from the normal media 24-hour news agencies. Okay? And hopefully we've informed you of other ways to be informed about breaking news. Okay. Twitter is great. I think Twitter is wonderful for that reason alone,
right. Just
to be told what's going on in the world right now, instantly. And the other thing is you can have controversial thoughts. You can look at the world and say, okay, Monsanto, they might have started out with this idea of
feeding a lot of people.
We're feeding a lot of people. Sure. We have to take our time and be responsible for the repercussions of our actions.
You have to stop and think. You have to stop and think about, is what I'm doing going to be benefiting people or benefiting humanity, or am I just benefiting myself?
Yeah, but it's, you know what? It's not just stopping and thinking. It's when you learn that what you're doing is hurting somebody. When you learn that, and it doesn't have to be on a massive scale. It doesn't have to be, I'm hurting everyone in the state of Georgia. It doesn't have to be, I'm hurting everyone in the United States or the world with what my product is doing. If you are hurting your child, if you're hurting your best friend with your actions, be aware of it. And wake up to that. When you are awakened to that, stop it.
And change it.
Absolutely. Anyway, it's things like that. And there's also a lot of fun fucking things in the world. So don't get too depressed. Try to be an advocate for what matters, right? Be well informed. It's okay to think of things in a controversial way. It's okay to play devil's advocate. It makes people think.
And also make sure you have somebody you can talk to. Fuck, if we didn't have each other to bounce these ideas off of, You know, if we didn't have somebody in our lives where we could say stupid, crazy shit and know that we're not going to be judged by that person across from us, then it makes life so much better. You can have some of these outward thoughts or something, you know what? You can think to yourself, you know, I have this crazy idea. What do you think about it? And somebody can say, yeah, you know, I love you and I care about you enough to tell you that's fucking crazy. You shouldn't do that. Or somebody who doesn't give a shit and say, yeah, you know, that's probably not a bad idea. If it was bad, I would tell you. You know, so what? You have a crazy idea. That's cool too. It's important to have people in your life. So don't isolate yourself. Don't find yourself pigeonholed so that you find yourself in a room on a computer and you're chatting with people and you're not getting out into the world to understand and experience things, so that you have people in your lives to bounce things off of.
And don't feel guilty when all of this shit is overwhelming. You can't spend every single minute of your day, of your life, fighting that good fight. You know, it's admirable, but you're not going to do it, and it's going to fucking wreck you. Sometimes you got to have fun. Sometimes you got to relieve that stress. You got to relieve that pressure, and you got to visit websites for men, you know, with men fucking things.
And we didn't even hit on it tonight.
No,
we didn't really get a chance to.
Not totally. Not as much as we wanted to. I mean, you were talking about fucking axes when I came back in. But
Best
you know
made
what?
company.
How about this? The Jaybird launches Blue Buds X in-ear Bluetooth headphones.
They're sick. Jaybird's done some. Those are like the newest version. Jaybird has 3 different pairs over the last 3 years they've released that are awesome.
Really amazing.
The reason why I like those compared to the Motorola SR10s, which are the waterproof wireless headphones.
All right.
Those don't have a hard piece of plastic that's going around your head. It's just a piece of wire just hanging down like a loop behind you.
Yeah.
So it's not quite so restrictive, but they look pretty awesome. My Motorola ones are great.
Yeah, I actually have the hard Motorola ones that I used for working out.
Yeah.
And I continually, every time I do bench press, every time I lay down on a bench, it messes with my neck. It's uncomfortable in that way. So it's cool. I mean, it's okay to think about serious things. It's good to think about serious things. It's good to be informed, but it's also okay to be silly and buy things that make you feel good. It's okay to purchase things.
Just don't let it ruin your life.
Don't get fucking crazy. Hey, Todd, how can you follow us?
You need to follow. You first of all go to theprimalscream.org. That's our website. You can listen to podcasts on there. But while you're there, make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. I was showing a bunch of people today about it. I just love.
If you fucking like it, and you should fucking like this.
I was showing people our iTunes page, and I was like, "Isn't that neat?" I'm just so excited about it.
Comment.
Yeah, subscribe to it, and then make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Pinterest. If you want to know about some of this best made company shit and the things that we find that are awesome on the internet, we have a Pinterest thing too that kind of keep people linked up with actual pictures of stuff. You know, you can see if you actually do like it or not. Make sure you get on there and like us on Facebook for sure. We need to see how more people are following us and if they care to follow us at all, for that matter. There is a donate button on there too. If you feel the need to, make sure you throw us, I don't know, 99 cents.
Well, you know what? There's two
Bitcoin.
There's two special, because we live in a capitalist society, and because I can't continue just to consume things. I need to pay things off. There's 2 different ways that we approach things financially on this podcast. One is the donate button, and through the donate button, the money that we receive through the donate button, primarily the very first thing that happens is it goes to our overhead costs of producing these podcasts, which we really enjoy. Whatever is extra, whatever happens after those bills are paid, 100% of those donates go towards local charities in our area. And it could be Wounded Warrior Project or just other areas that Todd and I are passionate about. It could be Trees Forever. Who knows? But we also are open to sponsorship. Now, sponsors help us in a different way. And that actually promotes purchasing things to make our podcast better. Okay? So we have 2 different ways. So when you hear us talking about sponsorship, or if you hear us talking about donate, it's 2 different things. We're not going after it for simply money, but just so you understand if you're donating stuff.
Yeah. And you can always email us at theprimalscream with Matt and Todd, all spelled out, all jammed together at gmail.com. So it's theprimalscream with Matt and Todd at gmail.com. Email us. We'd happy to hear from you. Absolutely comment on the Facebook page, comment on the web page. We want to hear from you. We want to see whether you like it, what you think about something that we didn't hit on. If there's something that you think is important that we didn't even touch on that has a huge impact on what we've talked about tonight.
I've gotten quite a few comments and
on the website.
Yeah. And it's helped. It's helped. It makes you more thoughtful about things. It makes you want to talk about different things that you wouldn't normally talk about. It's constructive criticism.
Absolutely.
Even if it's shitty, even if what I hear is typed out in a really shitty way, or if I hear it in a really shitty way, it's okay. It's okay. It makes me think about the overall product. It makes me realize that there's other people with different perspectives. But I'm open to it all.
Absolutely.
I'm open to it all.
Yeah, don't hold back. We call it the Primal Scream because we are always restricting the things that we say because we're so scared about either society or whatever influencing us. So,
but this is our one outlet. This is our one outlet to be free.
There you go.
So say what you need to say.
Say what you want to say.
We do.
Yep.
We do. So, hey, thank you very much for joining us tonight on the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And we'll see you later.
Adios.
Good night.